Hi. I know in the past I was doing like a word of the day, if you will. Um, well, the word I want to talk about right now, really quick, is control. What does that mean to you? A lot of times it has both a positive and a negative connotation to it, right? When I say I can control my emotions, we usually look at that as positive. Sometimes we'll look at other people who struggle with that and we'll be like, why can't they control themselves, right? So with regards to that, we look at it more positively. Control also can be, I feel like you're trying to control me, or the system is so controlled. And sometimes what we want is more freedom, okay? Or my parents are so controlling, right? And that happens at any age. At least it can. Um, so the word itself is basically talking about having power over something, okay? So one thing that you've probably heard me speaking about is that people only have power over you that you give to them. Now, a lot of times we're giving them power on an unconscious level. Like, we don't realize that that's what we're doing. We are essentially manipulated, but we're motivated by our fears, our triggers that maybe this person brings up for me, or this environment makes me feel, So let's think of control. I've known people to stay connected with someone, okay, way beyond what's healthy for them, simply because they feel through their religion or whatever, the views of their family or whatever system they grew up in or are enmeshed with, okay, that they don't have any control over that or any choice in the matter, so that they have to stay within that environment because of the restrictions that have been placed on them, okay? And in that case, sometimes we have a helpless or hopeless feeling. Okay. It is an illusion, because at any time you have the power to say no. Okay. Now, can that potentially put you in harm's way? Yes. So we have to be discerning. If I live in a country where I don't have the freedoms that I currently have, and I decide that I'm going to act in my right as a soul to be sovereign and do something, that might get me or people I love harmed, okay? Because it's not falling within the guidelines of the system, right? Still have choice. But ultimately, we are trying to navigate our choices in ways that serve the best and highest good of all involved. And if you're not, well, then you're not who I'm talking to. If you're someone who's out there willing to throw people under the bus, or your values are not aligned with trying to consider the best and highest good of all, then you probably aren't listening to me. And if you are, this isn't going to be in alignment with you, okay? I'm talking to people that are literally care, okay? And that are trying to do their best without harming anyone, okay? So I get it. Sometimes the biggest fear is to be isolated. Well, this is my family, or these are the people that I feel connected to, and if they're willing to ostracize me over this choice, that can still feel unsafe, okay? So again, meet yourself where you are, give yourself compassion, and do the work. And what I mean by that is, why do I feel unsafe if people who are not aligned with my best and highest good, when I'm putting their best and highest good in the front line, like I'm trying to care for their best and highest good, but they don't care about mine? Is this even a relationship worth keeping? Now, most things are not all or nothing. So Those are thoughts that we want to do our whys with. Okay? Why am I motivated to stay in this person's life if they're forever emptying my cup but never refilling it? Okay? If they're taking but never giving. Or maybe they give but not in a way that I need. Okay? Or not in a way that replenishes me. Okay? I don't know. Every situation is going to be different, but that's the work, right? That's the work to sit with and say, is this aligned with my best and highest good? Is this aligned with theirs? Maybe I'm enabling them. Maybe I'm doing for them out of a feeling or need to. Sometimes we put ourselves in those positions and it's still considered people pleasing because we're trying to earn our worth, right? If everyone here thinks I'm good, maybe I am. That's different from just doing things because it's aligned with your values and because you care, versus I need to earn this, or I need you to need me because that gives me self-worth. This is, it's not how it is. Oh my goodness. Brixie! I'm sorry. He literally jumped from one couch to the other and almost fell. You okay, Papa? It's okay. He's a good boy. Anyway, and this isn't about shaming. If that is you, the goal in me bringing this up isn't to say you're wrong, right? Or you're less than, or you're doing it this, no. It's to highlight for you, to give you questions to sit with so that you can do your work, because you are worthy and you don't need to prove that to anyone. Okay? Are we feeding ego or are we feeding our soul? Ask your whys. And don't be afraid of the answers. You may not like them all, but that's okay. You can't do anything about them until you see them for what they are. And that's the work. That's why it's hard. Because illusions are far easier to sit with than truth. But truth is what's needed in order to grow. In order to make those illusions true, in a lot of sense. Because you can be what you want to be. You just have to do the work in order to get there. And some people are there. I don't know. To each his own. I'm not here to judge. I'm just here to say this is the stuff you have to do to look at yourself truthfully, figure out what do I want to grow, what do I feel I'm appreciative and thankful that I have and that I am, and go from there. Not everything in you has to be fixed. None of us. Okay? But we all have something to work on, for sure. Some things, plural, usually. I'm sorry, someone's texting me right now. I gotta check that out. In any case, I'm gonna wrap up. So I kind of got off track with the control piece. But when we're trying to control, if we're trying to control, oftentimes control outside of its healthy perimeter is out of fear. I feel like I have to control this. I have to control this person. I have to control this environment. I have to control myself. Control is typically associated with anxiety, which is fear. It's just on the spectrum of fear, okay? When we feel we have to control, that is a form of avoidance. I'm avoiding feeling like this, which is usually out of control, right? Or whatever, however we define it. Again, sit with yourself. What is your definition around that word beyond what's in the dictionary? What does control, how does that sit with you in your body and in your thoughts when you think of the word control? And how does it play out in your life in any way? Whether on a bigger picture, a smaller picture, within yourself. And what do I like? What do I not like? And why? And what can I do about that? It's a slow and steady process. That's why a lot of people avoid it, because once we see something that we may not like about ourselves, we want to change it like that because we don't want to look at it. Nobody wants to look at what we would consider ugly things, right? But I'm here to tell you there's nothing ugly about you. Yes, there are going to be things that you're going to want to grow, heal, move through, repair, change, whatever you want to call it. Transition, transmute, whatever. But that doesn't make you ugly. And it certainly is not all or nothing thinking. Just because we have a few things that maybe we want to improve doesn't make us all bad. Okay? We are all fallible human beings. No one is perfect. Like I always say, perfection is a construct. It's a measurement tool, but it is not something we can ever truly attain. And who would want to? You know, ultimately, when you do enough healing, you realize that the beauty of life is in the imperfections, whether that's ourselves or our surroundings, because that's what makes life interesting. So, I don't know. Some will agree, some won't, but I got to get going. I wish you well, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.